My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target for gameweek 9 Sun Dream Team. Now, if you're going to take anything away from this episode, it's that it's a 6:30 deadline on a Friday, one that's bound to catch people out. So, before you do anything, set a team now. Set an alarm on your phone so that you don't miss the deadline, because this is going to catch a lot of people out. I think Friday, 6:30 p.m. You get home from work, you do your team straight away, and then enjoy your weekend. Don't crack open those beers early, because you might miss the deadline. So it's a Premier League and Carabao Cup double game week this week, which means it's quite unpredictable for selecting double game week players. I think the ideal scenario when choosing your double game week punts or your punts for this week is to maybe go for double game week players, but then that will have a European double game week the week after. You could punt outside of these, so like an Eze, an Mbuemo, or even Palmer because he's not playing Europe. But do have a plan to maybe move them on the next week because they will just have a single game week the week after. If you went for like a Man United player, Bruno Fernandes or Garnacho, if they don't end up getting the Carabao Cup match, they've still got a double game week to fall back on the week after. If you go for an Eze and Buemo, you will have to have a plan really in place to take them out the week after because they will have a single game week. Unless you just want to hold them for a single. There are some good single game weeks there. But that would be my advice. Selecting a double game week player, maybe have a double game week the week after to fall back on. So who do we think goes strong and who has a double game week this week? So Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United, Newcastle, Villa, Tottenham, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Southampton, Brentford and Leicester all have a double game week playing the Premier League match and then the Carabao Cup match. Everyone else just has a Premier League fixture. So Manchester City, Pep Guardiola said, I think it was the last round, we're not going to waste energy on this competition, and said that he'd be likely to play the players that haven't played very many minutes. So I expect Southampton, obviously, in the Prem is going to be a normal game for them, full strength, but probably heavy rotation in that Tottenham away match in the Carabao Cup. Now, they have got a few injuries, so maybe they'll be forced to play a few of their regular starters, but it seems like in general they will rotate a fair amount. I also expect heavy rotation from Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs and Villa. They all done the same last round, so expecting them to do similar. Arsenal have got Preston, which they can rotate for. Liverpool have got Brighton, but typically they always seem to rotate in the Carabao Cup. Manchester United, they go a little bit stronger in the Carabao Cup usually. Ten Hag does like the cup competitions. They did still rotate a fair bit for, I think it was Barnsley last round, but some big names came on like Bruno Fernandes. I think Rashford started. So I'll mention on each team slide who played in the Carabao Cup fixture for them last time round. Newcastle, Chelsea. I'm having a hard time predicting this one. Newcastle have rotated a fair amount, but now they're facing Chelsea, which is a tougher opposition. And then Chelsea, likewise, they've had a full different 11 in Europe. But where it is Newcastle, away from home in the Carabao Cup, I feel like they might throw in a few of their regular starters. So I'm hoping personally that Cole Palmer plays. I'm willing to take the risk on him this week, hopefully getting a double. And then Palace. Palace just have been going strong the whole way through. So you can't seem to go wrong with Palace players at the minute. Brighton, Southampton, Brentford, Leicester, they all rotated fairly heavily for the last round as well. A reminder, you can get the fixture ticker I'm using on screen from ffstuff.co.uk. They've got player data, predicted price changes, a load of helpful stuff for your dream team management. And then we've got 11afy.com for some predicted goals and predicted clean sheets for this week. This is just for the Premier League, so you'll have to guess the Carabao Cup yourself. But when it comes to the Premier League, Manchester City are projected to have the most goals this week with 3.30. That home match against Southampton is just about as good as it gets. And I think a lot of people will have a hard decision to make on the captaincy this week because it could be a case that Haaland plays that Premier League match, which looks like the best possible match he could have. But then he may not play the second match. I think Phil Foden played a false 9 in the last round. You've got Chelsea, who are second for expected goals or projected goals, 2.10. So if you was hoping to take a punt on Cole Palmer this week, it looks like the Premier League match against Newcastle at home is favoured. You'll just be taking the gamble on whether or not he plays in the second. Brentford, we've seen a lot of talk about Mbuemo for this week. Obviously, really good fixture against Ipswich at home. So 2.02 projected goals. So they're third, quite high up this week because of that Ipswich match. Brighton, 2.01. So they are the four teams that are projected to score more than 2 goals. Some standouts, you've got Villa there, 1.87, Arsenal, 1.73, and Spurs, 1.66. I noticed that Liverpool are all the way down in 17th, 1.10, but that is because they have the hard away match against Arsenal. But yeah, with Arsenal's injury problems, I think I'd expect them to maybe grab a goal in that match. Clean sheet projections. So City top again. I think they were top for both last week as well. 52% chance of keeping a clean sheet in that Southampton game. But we've seen recently, it's not as easy as it looks. They have conceded quite a few sloppy goals in these matches where we expected them to probably keep a clean sheet. And then there's quite a big drop-off after that. So Brentford in second, Brighton in third with 36, and Arsenal 33% chance in fourth. But like I said, not feeling so confident about those Arsenal clean sheets, with the likes of Calafiori being a doubt, Timber a doubt, Saliba suspended. So we'll have to wait and see what the team sheets look like. Liverpool all the way down in 15th for clean sheets, and not expected to keep a clean sheet away at Arsenal, but their defence has looked solid this season. We'll start off with Manchester City, and as you're probably aware, this video is going out earlier. It's going out on a Thursday morning, so we haven't had the Europa League matches, Europa Conference League matches. It's because of that Friday deadline. I need to get this video out early. If I wait for the Thursday matches to take place, there's going to be barely any turnaround time to watch this and sort your teams out. So I'm going to start off with Man City. Most projected goals and highest percentage for clean sheets in game week 9. They've got Southampton at home and Tottenham away. But like we said, expecting a fair bit of rotation in game week 9. So only Walker and Doku played in the Carabao Cup last round. Pep said they'll play a second team. It's just whether or not we believe him or not. I tend to do believe him because they have got such a good squad. But where they have got a few players out, like Rodri, we've seen Doku and Grealish are now out. I think he said that Grealish should be about a week or so, but Doku would be longer. So maybe that means some of the wingers have a better chance of playing too. Haaland. The main question with Haaland is, do we captain him? So it's the prime Premier League fixture, the best you can probably get at home at Southampton. But we don't know for certain that he will play the away match in the Carabao Cup against Spurs. So it's whether or not you think he'll do enough damage in that Southampton match to justify him potentially not playing in the Spurs match. And then if you do go against him, do you want to risk that he's not going to play the Spurs match? Because it will be quite terrifying if he ends up playing both. He has had 3 blanks in the Premier League, 3 blanks in a row. But he was back at it last night with 2 goals. It looked like it was going to be a frustrating night for him, but he did get 2 late goals. And City even went on to win a penalty late in the game. But I think Haaland had gone off like 8 minutes before that. So you'd have been a bit annoyed if he was on your goal bonus, for example. Robbed of getting that hat trick late on. But yeah, one of the goals was outrageous for Haaland in that one. So 19 points for him in that game against Sparta Prague. I'm leaning towards maybe just captaining him. I always do want to captain someone that's a guaranteed doubler, but they are hard to come by this week. So I think potentially Haaland is still the best captain for this week, just because that Premier League fixture is the best. Foden. So disappointment in the start of the week, or at the start of the week, with that benching, but he did come off the bench and get 4 points for an assist. We don't know whether he's going to start the Southampton Premier League match, but with Grealish and Doku both having injuries, maybe that improves his minutes. He actually did play through the middle yesterday with Matheus Nunes, who done really well. 19 points, 2 assists, and a goal for the penalty. He was playing off the left wing. Savinho was playing off the right wing. So Foden still playing through the centre. But you'd imagine that if there are a few injuries, he has got more chance that he could potentially play on the wing. He had played in the false 9 position as well when Haaland was rested in the Carabao Cup last time. 41% owned in the top 1K, but only 11% owned in the overall rankings. So there still is an opportunity if you have started the season slow or fallen behind and you want to catch up, you can make ground over the opposition by going Phil Foden potentially. Rico Lewis, 4 million. It feels like everyone owns him at this point. 73% owned in the top 1K. I'm expecting him to get the Premier League again. Not certain that he will get the Carabao Cup match. He did play the Carabao Cup match last round, but City had Arsenal in the Premier League last time out, so he didn't play in the Premier League. They used Walker to tackle Martinelli, and then Rico Lewis played in the Cup. So I think it probably will be similar. I think Rico Lewis has played almost the most minutes for City, so I imagine he's probably going to play the Prem and then maybe gets his rest in the Carabao Cup. Vardiol, he'll be popular after scoring his second goal. He was on the bench for the Champions League, but frustratingly did come on in the 74th minute. So that will affect his price change. He would have definitely got probably a 0.3 or 0.2 rise after that first game. But where he's played and come off the bench and he's played over the minimum amount of minutes he needs to play, he probably will be affected by that Champions League match now. So maybe a little bit less of an increase. You had Savinho 3.9 now. I think he's definitely of interest now because if you remember the last episode, I was sort of saying I'd be interested in adding a third City midfielder to the mix. Obviously, we've seen that Haaland is owned by everyone. Foden's not owned by the entire game, but he is getting quite popular within the top 1K. Adding another City player to the mix could be an extra differential. And Savinho, 3.9 million, doesn't have the risk now of Doku and Grealish. So it looks like that right wing spot probably is safe for Savinho. We've got 16 points this game week, 3 bonus in each match, and 5 assists now for the season. So I'm liking the look of Savinho. It will be a risk that he doesn't play the Carabao Cup match. But if he plays the Premier League match against Southampton and they come away with a result like 5-0, you'd imagine that he probably will be involved in some of the goals. Looks a real threat, takes some set pieces as well. I really do like his price and the player. And then John Stones, 4 million. So 2 goals this game week. I said that he came in clutch for that last goal in the Premier League match. He'd done it against Arsenal as well, and he's grabbed another one yesterday in the Champions League. So 3 goals this season. He'll be getting a nice price increase. Started both games this week as well. On to my team, Arsenal. And it feels like a lot of the talking points at the minute are not really things that we can control. So big injury concerns at the moment. So Saka, will he play? Won't he play? Didn't play the Premier League match last week. Then he didn't play the Champions League match, wasn't in the squad. Arteta said, nope, he's not even trained. And then the following day, tweets were coming out saying he is likely to play because he's trained. So Arteta's saying he hasn't trained. Maybe he trained in the morning after that and it was reported. But yeah, I feel like if news is coming out that saying that Saka's trained, it's because Arteta wants that news out. Absolute mind games going on. And I don't like having to play these games, really. Trying to decide will a player start or won't they, with a manager as deceptive as Arteta. So it's just, I'm looking at this as a single for Bukayo Saka, a single at home to Liverpool. And I feel like if he has had injury concerns, it would be absolutely stupid to bring him in for that Preston away match in the Carabao Cup. We've got the likes of Nwaneri, Sterling, Jesus, that all need to get minutes and find form. So I expect those 3 to take up those positions in the Preston match. So I'm looking at it as a single for Saka. He did actually play in the Carabao Cup last time out. But if you remember back to the match before the Bolton match, it was Arsenal versus City. And Saka went off at half time. And I think that was as a result of the red card that we received. So Saka was the guy that made way. And of course, where he'd only played 45 minutes, he then played in the Bolton match. So I don't think it's going to be a regular occurrence, to be honest with you. So stick or twist on Saka. Calafiori looks like he picked up a knee injury. I think he was probably going to be out. Timber, we've not heard any updates on whether he'll be back or not. And then William Saliba is suspended as well. So our defence is going to look a bit of a mess, really. Gabriel, Ben White should both be available. Then Kivior might have to come in. Zinchenko. Even talk about Declan Rice potentially going into centre-back or Thomas Partey playing at right-back. So it doesn't look great against a team as good as Liverpool. So Saka, stick or twist. So if we think he's playing one fixture, I guess the decision you need to make is if you are going to take him out, is there a player that you're certain will play 2 fixtures or very confident that will play 2 fixtures? If you can pick up a 2 for 1 in that scenario, I don't mind that. I know it is always a risk taking out a player like Saka, but I feel like it could be a calculated risk against Liverpool, personally. He's on penalties, so that can always backfire. He's on set pieces, taking corners, so there's always a chance that he will get attacking returns. But it's just how many goals do you see Arsenal scoring against Liverpool? And then are you willing to take the risk that he may not play at all? We've seen it against Bournemouth, I think, against Bournemouth last season. We didn't think he was going to play. Then he played. But then there was a Man City match where I'm pretty sure we thought that he was going to play. And then he was completely left out. So I don't like having to second guess. And I'm leaning towards that. I think I will take Saka out this week. Let me know what you think you're going to do with Bukayo Saka this week. But it's just if you think there's a player that can play 2 games and potentially outscore Saka, I think maybe you can go for it. But one thing I would say is just make sure you've got a plan to get him back in the next week. Don't take him out, spread the money out, and not have a route back. Plan it out. How will you get Saka back the next week? Because you don't want to get caught out. Calafiori, if you're replacing him, I would just avoid the Arsenal defence at the moment with Saliba out. I don't think Gabriel's worth the money. Ben White was withdrawn at half-time against Shakhtar, but I think that's probably keeping him fresh for Liverpool because we know there's a few issues. And obviously the Calafiori injury. I don't like the look of the Arsenal defence now. Preston, you might get lucky and have someone play the Preston fixture from your defenders just because we're so light. But then game week 10, Newcastle away, Inter away, and game week 11, Chelsea away. Not the best fixtures for me, so I'm happy to just pass on the defence at the moment. Liverpool, so they were down in 15th for 4 clean sheets and down in 17th for projected goals. So not really fancied against Arsenal in that fixture. I've mentioned it enough times now. I think they're going to give us a really tough match, actually, with the circumstances around Arsenal at the minute. Kelleher and Darwin Núñez were the only 2 players to start in the Carabao Cup last round. Start the Premier League and the Carabao Cup last round. Alisson actually had another injury back then, so Kelleher played twice. And Darwin Núñez could actually end up playing twice this week. So there's no Jota, or hasn't been any Jota, Chiesa or Bradley in the European squad yesterday. So that maybe Jota being out could increase the chances of Darwin getting 2. Chiesa being out might increase the chances of Salah getting 2. And potentially even Conor Bradley might help Trent's chances, but I am just guessing there. 7 clean sheets in all competitions now for Liverpool. So Salah, second highest scoring player in the game now, 21 points this game week, and grabbed a goal and 2 assists this week. Probably could have had a goal in the game against Leipzig, but Darwin Núñez nicked it on the line. A real striker thing to do. Really annoying if you was on goal bonus again, but I didn't mind it too much. I'm not expecting Salah to start Brighton. Playing the Arsenal game is going to be the priority. They do rotate. Salah didn't play in the West Ham game in the last round, but he did come off the bench and had a real impact. If Chiesa is out, I'm struggling to see who they might play on the right-hand side, unless they do go with like a Gakpo on the right and a Diaz on the left, Darwin through the middle. But yeah, there is a chance. I think there's a chance that he could be involved. Trent, highest scoring defender in the game. I didn't expect him to play in the Cup, but again, with Bradley out, Gomez could potentially play right back. But then that would mean one of the centre-backs probably has to stay out of Konate and Virgil van Dijk. I think Quansah played the last round, and Gomez also played at centre-back, and Bradley started. But if Bradley is out, maybe Gomez has to play right back. So there could be a chance that maybe one of the centre-backs starts in the Cup or Trent starts in the Cup. We'll have to wait and see. Gakpo now started 3 games in a row. And Darwin Núñez has started 2 in a row with Jota out injured. He grabbed a goal against Leipzig, like I mentioned. So Gakpo, Núñez could be outside punts. Luis Diaz has been benched a couple of games in a row now. It always seems to coincide with these international breaks. So that might be something we need to consider in future game weeks. The next international break is after game week 11. So yeah, the players sort of traveling to South America always seem to struggle a little bit more with the international breaks and coming back. Kelleher, clean sheet this week. So only the 2 points in the first game. I had Sells, so I was pretty happy that Sells had kept the clean sheet and Kelleher hadn't, because I was looking at Kelleher. But Kelleher got 11 points in the Leipzig game. So that is the thing with having these double game week players. You get 2 chances, and he's taken the second chance. 11 points, 6 saves yesterday as well. Did concede twice, but both ruled out for offside. But at 2.3 million, I still think there's a good opportunity to get on Kelleher here. But like me, if you're not sure whether or not you're going to do it this week or not, time is ticking, because you've got a double game week this week, game week 9, a double game week in game week 10, a single in 11, and then there's a potential that Allison could be back after that. So the games are sort of disappearing quite quickly. Aston Villa, so 2 home fixtures this week. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace one is the Carabao Cup, and last time out in the Carabao Cup, they rotated the entire team, with Onana being the only one that played in both the Premier League and Carabao Cup. So fully rotated team pretty much for Wickham, and they've got a really strong bench and squad depth. So I think they're probably going to do something similar again. Maybe they chuck in a few bigger names just because it's Crystal Palace rather than Wickham. But I do think they'll give a lot of rests out, because they're not a team that rotates that much usually. So very hard to predict this week for me, Aston Villa. The Bournemouth fixture at home, though, looks good. I feel like if I was going for Villa, I'd just be choosing them as long-term picks at this point. So Morgan Rogers, 18 points for the game week, dropping his best game week of the season, the week that I decided to punt on taking him out. I must say, there's players that you take out of your team, maybe like a Salah, maybe like a Saka this week, maybe a Palmer, and you think to yourself, I'm taking the risk here, but I know it could backfire. I did not expect this from Morgan Rogers this week. I know he's had the odd attacking return, but to drop an 18-pointer, I was a little bit gutted about that. So he's 3 million and he will be rising. He got a goal and an assist this week, close to getting maximum bonus points as well. 2 goals, 3 assists for the season. He's a fantastic enabler, and he will at some point be back in my team, but I don't think it's going to be next week. He has played almost, I think, the most minutes for Aston Villa this season. I think Torres was above him, Tielemans was above him, and Martinez was above him for minutes. But I do think this could be an opportunity to potentially rest him. So I wouldn't be certain that he gets 2 starts. Same with Ollie Watkins. I feel like his stock has fallen a little bit. Obviously, he got that really good goal at the start of the week, but he was benched for the Champions League, which was a surprise. Duran started in Champions League and did grab a goal. 5 goals, 3 assists for Watkins. Duran kicked off big time when he got subbed off as well. So you know that he's causing Emery problems, considering him for starts. And I think Duran probably is going to start the cup match. So probably just 1 match again for Watkins. Tielemans, 14 points, had a great game week, 10 points at the weekend, and a bonus in each match. Again, not expecting him to play Carabao. I think he's just one of these players as well that's played so many minutes. And with Villa doing really well in the Champions League and having an impressive Premier League season, I think those 2 surely have to be the focus for Aston Villa. And they've got more than enough on the bench, I think, to put a performance against Crystal Palace. Cash, Concert, Digne, all only started 1 game this week. I expect probably similar next week again, because they've got so much depth. Torres and Diego Carlos got 2 starts this week. But I don't know what the strongest 11 is going to be now. They've got everyone available with Consa, Cash, Torres, Douglas Luiz. There is a lot of, I keep saying Douglas Luiz, Diego Carlos. There's a lot of depth there. Martinez had an incredible week this week. He's just an all-round great pick, isn't he? 9 points in the Bologna match, pulling off 4 saves, and obviously a penalty save in the match where he didn't keep a clean sheet at the weekend. So I still think Martinez is an incredible pick if you did want to sort out your goalkeeper. But I do still think Gauchi is going to probably start the Crystal Palace match. He started the last Wickham game. Manchester United, so obviously going early on them. So Fenerbahce still to play this evening. Bruno Fernandes is suspended from that one, so we're not going to see anything extra from him. Dalot, Rashford, Eriksen all played in the Premier League and Carabao Cup double last time out. They did go relatively strong, but it's a harder opposition this time round with Leicester than Barnsley. So I expect it's probably going to be a stronger lineup than it was before. We know Ten Hag really does value the cup competitions. So I'm expecting them to go strong for this Leicester match. Nice fixtures coming up. So West Ham away in the Premier League. West Ham have been shocking recently. So I think that does look like an okay fixture on paper. Leicester at home in the Carabao Cup. Again, nice tie. And then they've got a really nice run of Premier League matches. So after Leicester at home, it's Chelsea at home, PAOK in the Europa League at home, Leicester at home again in game week 11. And then the run just continues. So they've got 2 of their next 8 games away from home, which are West Ham and Ipswich. All the rest of the games are at home. So I feel like it could be the start of a run for Man United, although they have been pretty inconsistent so far this season. So it is a gamble. But if you do think their form is going to pick up a little bit, it could be an opportunity. Leicester rotated quite heavily in the last Carabao Cup match, and West Ham haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 games. So I feel like this could be a decent week. Bruno Fernandes, 5.3 million. So he's got the 3rd most minutes at United. He didn't start Barnsley, but he came on and got attacking returns. He's had 4 assists this season, but no goals. So a bit disappointing on the goal front. 19 attacking returns last season. We know that he's got it in him, but you can't deny he has been off form this season. So I like the punt actually on Bruno Fernandes this week for game week 9, just because I do think that he will start both. If there's a team where I was more confident that they would start 2 matches, I think it is Manchester United at the minute. And I think Bruno Fernandes is still a decent option. Just hasn't quite been on form. Someone that is on form at the minute is Garnacho, 3.6 million. So 4 goals, 3 assists so far. He had 5 shots on target in the last game and looked really, really dangerous. He doesn't start every game, but he usually comes on if he doesn't start. And so I think Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes are good options. Different price points. Garnacho coming in a bit cheaper. But I think both are good picks for this week. And then Dalot, 4.3 million. The reason he's on the list as well is just because I feel like, again, if anyone's sort of guaranteed minutes, or maybe not guaranteed, but if anyone's going to get minutes in a double, it feels like it's going to be Dalot. He's had the most minutes for Manchester United in all competitions so far this season, started every single game. He's the 7th highest defender in the overall rankings, 3 goals, 6 assists last season. So again, we know that he does have attacking threat. It's a nice run, including 4 home games, followed by Ipswich. So I feel like this also could be a chance to go for a United defender. They do somehow seem to be keeping clean sheets this season, despite being pretty poor. Yeah, it's just whether or not you trust Manchester United. Yeah, you don't know which one is going to turn up. Spurs, so again, Europa League is tonight. AZ still to play. But Angie's approach to cup competition so far hasn't been appealing. They rotated heavily against Coventry in the League Cup. They've rotated pretty heavily the whole way through the Europa League. And for someone that said that he always wins trophies in his 2nd season, I thought maybe he might look to be taking them a little bit more seriously. But he's still in them. They're still doing okay in them. Udogie, Bentancur, Solanke were the only 3 that started the Premier League and the Carabao Cup last round. So again, could be rotation, but it's interesting to know what they'll do where it's Man City at home. Are they going to just go full strength and try and give City a game? Or are they going to have one eye on that hard clash against Aston Villa at home in the Prem and still mix it up a little bit? I think it's going to be a bit of a mixture, like they have been doing in the Europa League. Maybe a Solanke plays 2, for example. But someone like Son, I'm not expecting to play 2. So he impressed in that Premier League match last round, but he wasn't seen training pre-Europa League. So I think players like Son, they'll probably try and be careful with just coming back from injury. But someone like Solanke, who typically does play a lot of minutes, might be okay. Kulusevski, an enabler. He's done really well in the Premier League match. Someone that I've had in my team a while, 11 points. Really liking him as a pick at a minute. But again, I can't guarantee he plays twice. And the same with Maddison. Maddison has been a really, really good pick, but he was taken off at half time in the Premier League match for a tactical change for Sarr. He did get an assist and 5 points still, very close to getting 3 bonus points. But I don't like the fact that, Maddison was having a good game. And when they looked to see how they could change the game, Maddison's the guy that they took off. He's already been getting limited minutes anyway, going off in the sort of 70th quite a lot of times and not playing in Europa League. So I'm not confident Maddison plays 2 either. He's been a really, really good pick, but just it's the minutes front that's not been great. I'm not that keen on defence. Palace is a nice fixture, but then City and Villa, not great. And even Galatasaray in game week 10, I think that's a tough place to go. So I'm not that hot on the Spurs defence, but if I had Porro, I probably wouldn't sell him. He can always be a threat. I think Solanke is probably the best bet if you wanted to go for 2 fixtures, but I can understand if you had him and you want to sell him, because I think it's 3 games, no goals now. And he has been a little bit disappointing. Dropping into quite deep positions and then playing off him, and then the wingers getting a lot of the action. So can understand if you are disappointed and do want to get Solanke out. But if I had to give someone that I thought would play the most minutes out of the front line, it probably would be him. Chelsea, well, not Chelsea, everyone. So this is a quick blast through some of the other teams, because I don't think there's a lot of options from each, but I'll give you a quick lowdown on all of them. So Chelsea, I think Cole Palmer is the best option. No surprise here. Game week 9, Newcastle at home, Newcastle away. Look, I completely get it. If you think that because they've rotated the whole 11 for Europe, that they might do the same thing in Carabao Cup, I think that's a perfectly good argument and definitely could still happen. I feel like there's a chance that he could feature where it is Newcastle. He didn't feature at all and wasn't in the squad for the Barrow game, but it's Barrow. This is away at Newcastle. So I think if they do want to take this competition seriously, he will be in the squad, and I think he probably will start. But it is a risk, and a risk that I'm going to take. So 6 goals, 5 assists for him. He's on set pieces, pens, and we've seen that he's got haul potential. So I'm confident enough to take the risk on it, but there is a chance that they do rotate heavily again. Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes and Anthony Gordon would be the 2 that I'd potentially look at if I was going to take a punt on them, but I don't like these fixtures against Chelsea for them. They had Sarr, Joe Linton and Harvey Barnes start in the Cup and the Prem last time. Chelsea, I forgot to mention, no player that started in the Prem started in the Carabao Cup for that Barrow game. Brighton, the ones that started the pair of fixtures last time out was Hinchelwood, Baliba and Minte. I think there's a good chance that those 3 could start the Prem and start in midweek again, but I won't be targeting Brighton players for Wolves at home and then Liverpool at home. The Wolves at home fixture looks nice, but Liverpool home are still, even if Liverpool do rotate, I think that's tough. And then it's Liverpool in a single for 10 and Man City for a single in 11, so not appealing. Brentford is going to interest a lot of people because of the Ipswich Premier League match looking good, and then Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup also looks good. And Mbeumo, 6 goals this season. He hasn't started previously in the Carabao Cup, so you are taking a gamble on whether you think he'll play or not in this round. He's the pen taker, the main man, and these are prime fixtures if he gets them both. The players that started last time out were Van der Berg, Norgard and Damsgaard. Now, Damsgaard has actually been playing really, really well in all competitions as well for Brentford. So he could be a little outside punt. But Visser is back. He came off the bench in the last Premier League match. So if they want to get Visser up to speed, the Sheffield Wednesday game could be an opportunity for that. So yeah, there is depth there. And Mbeumo, again, it's probably a little bit of a punt like Cole Palmer starting. Buonanotte for Leicester. He's in good form. 3 goals, 2 assists, 12 points for the game week could be an option. But last time out, the only player that started Prem and Carabao Cup was Okoli. So probably rotation happening there, which could be a good thing for United. Crystal Palace, Eze, it's got to be completely nailed, I think. 3 goals, 2 assists so far for the season. Bonus point monster. Tougher fixtures, you would say. Tottenham at home, Aston Villa away. But they could be playing against a second string Villa side if you think they're going to rotate. And Eze could benefit from that. But they started pretty much a full 11 for both fixtures last time. Henderson, Gehi, Lacroix, Munoz, Mitchell, Nketiah, Mateta and Eze all started both fixtures. So if you're looking for someone that you really want to be nailed for 2, it probably is going to be Eze. I think he's got the best chance of anyone to play both, but it's whether or not you think you want him for these fixtures. Then a quick look at boosters and captaincy. So I don't plan on playing a booster this week, but here's my rundown on thoughts of playing each one this week. So 12th man. I don't like the uncertainty of the 12th man this week. initially, I kind of liked the idea of it, thinking, if you wanted to take a risk on Palmer, you could bring him in. You don't take his price drop. And then if you don't want him for next week, you have not used a transfer to take him out. But then I started to look at the fixture ticker throughout the season, and there's Premier League doubles that are better than their double this week. So I feel like you could obviously transfer him in for those, but the Premier League doubles, you've got the certainty of the starts compared to in this Carabao Cup where it is a bit of a punt. So I was looking, I'd say look at the fixture ticker if you are thinking of playing 12th man this week, and just have a look at maybe game week 13 or game week 16 and think, is there a 12th man that I might prefer to have there that could definitely play twice? Because I think there are some nice fixtures in that week. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but you might be disappointed and only get the one game. Max captain. So Haaland looks great for this game week as the main captain, but we don't know if he starts both. So you could ensure against that by going for your max captain. And if Haaland goes off in the Southampton match, gets a hat trick or whatever, your armband's going to be on Haaland. But if he blanks or doesn't do too well in the Southampton match, and then Tottenham doesn't play, you've then got the chance that your armband could move onto one of your other doublers. But with it being an uncertain double, you may just have less players performing for that armband to go on. So maybe less chance of hauls, but there is probably more chance of picking up a differential this week. Again, I'm not going to do it, but I can see there's some merit in it because I have had a hard time thinking about who I would want a captain for this week. Goal bonus, again, I think it's too much uncertainty for starts, in my opinion. We saw in the goal bonus this week that there were a few surprises with injuries and stuff like that, which obviously can't be helped. But it's coming off the back of an international break. Champions League, Europa League can always be a little bit unpredictable compared to the league. So I can't see the appeal of goal bonus this week unless you really do want to back a Haaland hat trick against Southampton. Strong potential with Haaland's fixture, but again, for the rest of your team, I don't think you can guarantee the starts. Captain picks for game week 9. So I think I'm going to put Haaland at the top of the list. So 13 goals for the season. There was that 3 Premier League blanks in a row, but 2 goals, 5 shots on target last night. High potential in the Southampton game, but I don't think he starts Tottenham. So you may want to weigh up again. Do you think Haaland in one fixture against Southampton could be beat by someone else if you think they definitely will get 2 fixtures? I'm leaning Haaland currently. Second, I'd go Cole Palmer, but I think it's just subjective from this point on whether or not you think people are going to get 2 fixtures. I think Palmer might, so I'm going to put him as second. 6 goals, 5 assists from 8 matches. So he has had good returns so far. He's stronger at home. He's always had better returns at home for Chelsea. But when you look at it, if he was only going to get the single, Haaland's single against Southampton is better than Palmer's single against Newcastle. If you think he's going to get 2 games, then maybe you've got an argument there versus Haaland's 1. But yeah, I still don't know if I'm confident enough to go against Haaland against Southampton. Bruno Fernandes, I'm going to put him there. But again, I feel more confident that he gets 2 starts than Palmer, than Haaland. But I'm less confident in his ability to return hauls. So I'm going to put him down in third. And then fourth, Mbeumo and Eze. I think real outside options, a bit similar to Bruno. Bruno, Mbeumo, Eze, Palmer, all on penalties. So you are sort of backing yourself a little bit more there with the penalties. But again, I think it's risky to go against Haaland this week. It is always risky to go against Haaland. But the fact is Southampton, if it was maybe a more mid-table side in that first fixture or an away match in that first fixture, then maybe I'd be more willing to go against it. But currently, I think Haaland is still the pick for me. If you've enjoyed that so far, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and head over to the Dream Team Tonic podcast after this. We've got our Game Week 9 preview with Connor joining us as a special guest. I'm not going to go through each player player by player, because I did do a video earlier in the week sort of going through that. But I'm on 134 points for the game week, 1,021 points in total, and 270th on the leaderboard. Had a bit of a mixed week. Got as low as 110 and then as high as 310 after the Morgan Rogers haul. But still amongst it after last night, 270th with 2 Spurs players, hopefully still to play. So looking at this, my initial thoughts for the game week was Palmer and Foden were the guys that I definitely wanted for this week. So they're not going to go anywhere. Haaland and Salah, they're not moving. Saka, I've already mentioned it. I will consider moving Saka out this week. I just don't like the uncertainty of him potentially playing no games. And then even if he does play, I think it's probably going to be a single against Liverpool. I'd be very shocked if he plays Preston. Maddison, Kulusevski, we've got to see what happens tonight. I'm not against losing Maddison, potentially. I think that he's probably only going to play the one game this week. The same with Matty Cash as well. I did just bring him in. He got the price rise. But I'd be open to sell either Cash or Maddison, just because I think they're going to get the one game. And yeah, slight minutes risks. Vardiol and Lewis, I think, are safe. They're doing really, really well. And then Sells, obviously, at any point could be upgraded for me as a single game week keeper. But him keeping that clean sheet and getting 10 points is going to get him a rise. Is it the highest priority at the minute? So these are a few things that I am looking at for next week. So I quite like the look of doing this. So I mentioned I might take Saka out. The guy that I'd be the most confident or more confident gets 2 starts this week and has nice fixtures is Bruno Fernandes. Now, he's disappointed quite a few times already this season, so it's not an ideal pick, but I do think these are 2 nice fixtures. West Ham away, and then Leicester, who I probably expect do rotate a fair bit. So I like Bruno Fernandes for this. He's had a few assists this season, but he is lacking goals. He's due a 0.2 rise as well, so that's a positive. And if I did it, it would be getting him in with a view to either taking him back out or taking Palmer out. Palmer would be the easier route because of the price is a lot nearer to Saka. And then Dalot, I mentioned it, he's played the most minutes for Manchester United. They have got a few injuries at the back, and he's pretty much their fittest defender in terms of playing a ton of minutes. So I think Dalot would be my most likely to get 2, whereas I think Cash is just going to get the 1. Obviously has a bit of attacking threat himself. And like I mentioned, with Bruno, with Dalot, if something else happens elsewhere in the team, happy to keep him because the fixtures are nice for Man United. The form hasn't been great. I've not been hot on them really so far this season, but they're not bad. They're not bad picks. They're not great picks, but they're not bad picks. And in a week where minutes and 2 starts are uncertain, I feel like I'm quite confident in these 2 getting 2 starts. It would mean leaving Sells in goal for another week, which is not great, but he's going to get a price rise. Obviously, this depends on Maddison and Kulusevski as well, coming through tonight unscathed. But I've got my route for Saka in mind. So if I did do this, I'd have one eye on then taking Palmer out next week because he'll only have a single game week. Palmer's 6.5 million and he'll be dropping to 6.4 million. So he would be my route to Saka, but obviously I'd need to find 0.4 million. I've got 0.3 million in the bank. So currently 0.1 short. I'd have to find that 0.1 elsewhere, but I don't think that's going to be too difficult to do. I could just do Sells down to Kelleher, and that's the price difference there. So that's what I mean by if you are going to take a risk and take Saka out, just have in mind something that you would do to get him back. But yeah, fixing my keeper again doesn't really feel like a massive issue. But if I did go for Kelleher, I obviously would get 2 fixtures versus Sells 1. But I feel like I'm gaining a fixture with Dalot because I'm more confident he's going to get 2 versus Cash's 1. And I feel like I'm gaining a fixture or potentially 2 fixtures from Bruno Fernandes if Saka doesn't play. Other option would be to sort of load up on City and hope to batter Southampton. So I would probably go Saka to Bruno again. I'm happy with that one, but then maybe move Maddison to Savinho. Savinho's looked really, really good. They've got issues with Grealish and Doku injuries, so there's an increased chance that he could play 2 matches on the wing. and he's looked really, really good. He's had 3 bonus points in both of his last 2 matches. Quite a lot of assists as well. I think he takes some of the in-swinging corners and a few set pieces as well. So if I did really want to target that Southampton game, I do like the look of Bruno Fernandes and Savinho. I'm expecting Savinho as minimum just to get the 1 start, whereas I think Maddison's probably only going to get the 1 start as well. So not really much gained in fixtures compared to the last one, because I think Cash then is going to play 1 and Sells is going to play 1. And then, yeah, if Savinho only plays 1, I've not really gained anything compared to the last one. But again, I do like that for maybe going at all-out attack. The downside is obviously when players start to come back, Savinho isn't nailed for 2. And there is a single game week coming up for City. And then, with City in the single game weeks, there's a chance that you just miss out entirely. So that is a downside. But I do, again, like this as a bit of an attacking play. Or maybe the boring, sensible play would be to just sort out Sells and Kelleher, get Kelleher in as my keeper, get 2 fixtures versus Sells 1. I think they're both just going to keep up with each other in terms of price increases this week. So nothing lost there. And then do the Bruno Fernandes to Saka move. If Sells, though, does end up increasing a little bit more than Kelleher, maybe it makes it a little bit harder to do the switch. But with this move, I've got 1.7 million in the bank. So finding a route back to Saka should be quite easy. It just means keeping cash for another week, which I don't mind. Bournemouth at home, I think he will play. But like I said, I don't think he's going to play Crystal Palace at home. But currently, let me know which one you think you prefer out of this one. Last week, people told me they didn't like my moves, and I still went for the one they didn't like. I should have maybe listened, but you got to play your own game when it comes to Dream Team. I'm liking this one the most. Bruno Fernandes and Dalot in for the week, but still plenty of time before the deadline to change my mind. If you've got any questions or need any help, drop a comment below. Let us know what you need help with for this game week. And just don't forget that it's a Friday deadline, 6:30 p.m. We'll be doing a Friday night deadline stream. Myself, Tony, and possibly Ben on the Dream Team Tonic podcast. So go and give the Dream Team Tonic a follow, and we'll see you on Friday. Goodbye.